Hey, no, keep in mind, I knocked down 5 channels already. They gone. Now, I got YouTube on speed dial. Play with me. I got my attorneys on deck. Play with me. I know who my family are. All the way back to Chief One Alaska. That's who I'm related to. On my father's side, and of course, they will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Band or East Band Cherokee. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Band or East Band Cherokee. Hey, no, keep in mind, I knocked down 5 channels already. They gone. Now, I got YouTube on speed dial. Play with me. I got my attorneys on deck. Play with me. I know who my family are. All the way back to Chief One Alaska. That's who I'm related to. On my father's side, and of course, they will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Band or East Band Cherokee. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Band or East Band Cherokee.
Every summer at Tahlequah, Oklahoma, the Cherokee Indians sponsor their Trail of Tears pageant, the story of how the U.S. government robbed the so-called 5 civilized tribes of their homelands in the South and moved them by force to Oklahoma. They don't tell about the thousands of blacks the tribes brought with them, their slaves.
My mammy and pappy belonged to a part Cherokee named W.P. Thompson. Belonged to a part Cherokee named W.P. Thompson when I was born.
The woman reading is my sister, Elaine Ford Staton, but the words are those of our great-grandmother, Phyllis Thompson Pettit, whose Georgia-born parents were brought by the Cherokees over the trail. Phyllis Thompson Pettit, whose Georgia-born parents were brought by the Cherokees over the trail. Johnson Thompson was Phyllis's brother.
Before that, Pappy had been owned by 3 different masters. One was the rich Joe Van, who lived down at Weber's Fall, and another was Chief Lowry of the Cherokees.
My cousin, Maurice Shepard, reading the words of his great-grandmother.
Why do you think the freedmen, the black Seminoles, belong as part...
Blacks named Civil. Talk about black rights.
Okay.
Instead of talking about social integration, talk about economic integration.
Why do you think the freedmen, the black Seminoles, belong as part of this tribe?
Because we had people that die along the trail just like any other people in the nation.
But I guess they're saying, yes, thank you. You fought alongside us in Florida. That was 200 years ago. It's time for us to separate.
I would just let them know that we have all rights within the Seminole Nation.
But Chief Haney says many of the black Seminoles and even some of the blood Seminoles weren't interested in being part of the tribe until it included benefits, namely a piece of that $56 million government payout.
The tribe wanted to have an Indian tribe that was all Indian tribe.
There are too many freedmen.
I think there's a lot of freedmen out there now that are eligible to join, but have not joined because there are no benefits.
But you think if there were benefits for them, suddenly freedmen would be coming from all across the country?
Yes.
Let me tell you what it looks like from the outside, though. It looks like the freedmen fought wars, died with you, moved on the Trail of Tears from Florida to Oklahoma with you. And now suddenly there's a big pot of money. Let's exclude them.
That may be true to some extent, but I don't think that's all of the reasons for what has happened. That may be true to some extent, but I don't think that's all of the reasons for what has happened.
My indigenous blood, both African and Native American, urges me, much like my ancestors, to bitterly oppose white values and white or light-skinned supremacy.
He also says the red and black Seminoles have just grown apart over the years and have little in common today. But that's not how Sylvia Davis sees it. She's hired Will and John Veely, 2 young attorneys who specialize in Indian law. They're suing the government on behalf of the black Seminoles.
Hey, no, keep in mind, I knocked down 5 channels already. They gone. Now, I got YouTube on speed dial. Play with me. I got my attorneys on deck. Play with me. I know who my family are. All the way back to Chief One Alaska. That's who I'm related to. On my father's side, and of course, they will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Band or East Band Cherokee. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Band or East Band Cherokee. Hey, no, keep in mind, I knocked down 5 channels already. They gone. Now, I got YouTube on speed dial. Play with me. I got my attorneys on deck. Play with me. I know who my family are. All the way back to Chief One Alaska. That's who I'm related to. On my father's side, and of course, they will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Band or East Band Cherokee. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Band or East Band Cherokee.
For Seminole leaders like Chief Jerry Haney, this is what it now comes down to. Proof. I've met several black Seminole women, some of whom look Indian, and yet they can't participate in the benefits. They know they have Indian blood.
I'm well aware of that. The individuals that I know of that say that, you're absolutely right. they show a lot of Indian in them. But it's up to the individual to prove that they are Indians. And this is where the problem is. They can't prove it with the Dawes Commission roll.
What happened to your front porch? You have no steps.
No steps. No steps there, no steps here. And I need a whole house here.
Holly Gentry has lived her entire life on land her grandmother received 100 years ago as a full member of the tribe. All Seminoles, red and black, were given land in Oklahoma. Holly says she could use some of the $56 million judgment fund to repair her house.
My husband decided he's going to put some bricks around it, and he got, far as you see them bricks is now, and he had a heart attack.
And it's been like this?
And it's been like this, because you couldn't get nobody to fix it.
Do you have the money to fix it?
No. No, Lord, no.
So, did you apply for a benefit?
Yeah, but they wouldn't give it to me.
The Seminoles have $56 million coming from the government, and how much of it did you want?
I want enough that I can get me a house built where I can live comfortable. Because it ain't no comfortable here.
Now, you may not have heard this one from your history books. Descendants of black people enslaved by members of Native American tribes in the 1800s have still not been allowed to become full tribal citizens. Now, you may not have heard this one from your history books. Descendants of black people enslaved by members of Native American tribes in the 1800s have still not been allowed to become full tribal citizens. Now, these descendants are known as freedmen. They're not even considered by the tribes to be members, quote, by blood. It was only this month that the Federal Indian Health Services ordered the tribe to provide full health care to freedmen. And Congresswoman Maxine Waters is pushing to withhold federal funding for tribes that do not recognize freedmen as full citizens. 2 Oklahoma tribes have announced that they are considering changes to their constitutions to allow freedmen full rights, but months later, after their consideration, there's still little signs of progress.
Now see, if you're going to talk about reparations, black folks have been getting all this money all these years too. But they got shut out because the Indians in 1938, they sent a letter to the Department of Bureau of Indian Affairs saying, how do we shut black folk down to make sure they never get any reparations? And that letter floated around in the federal government from about 1938 to about 1941. Then it went to the Secretary for the Department of Interior. And the Department of Interior looked and says, said, how did I come up with a scheme to shut down blacks so they get no reparations in this country? He said, what you do, you Indians come up with a new concept called a quantum blood law, which says that black folk are not entitled to any of the benefits of the 1866 treaty in terms of reparations unless they can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they got 1/4 Indian blood in them.
Hey, no, keep in mind, I knocked down 5 channels already. They gone. Now, I got YouTube on speed dial. Play with me. I got my attorneys on deck. Play with me. I know who my family are. All the way back to Chief Wannaluska. That's who I'm related to. On my father's side, and of course they will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Vandal, East Band Cherokee. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Vandal, East Band Cherokee. Hey, no, keep in mind, I knocked down 5 channels already. They gone. Now I got YouTube on speed dial. Play with me. I got my attorneys on deck. Play with me. I know who my family are. All the way back to Chief Wannaluska. That's who I'm related to. On my father's side, and of course they will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Vandal, East Band Cherokee. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern. They will be considered now Cherokee, Eastern Vandal, East Band Cherokee.
Hey, Black Power, Black Power. This is Underground Warrior TV. I am Soldier C. I'm back with another hot video. Please, this is your first time coming into my channel. Make sure you mash up the likes, share the video. Most of all, subscribe to the channel. I'm still striving, y'all, for that 1,000 mark. Hope y'all help me get there, you feel me? Hey, but what did I say? After the video that I made where I bagged a coon called Taharka Bay, Moore's TV, I bet you right now that coon right now is looking for black people to attack. You know, prominent black people trying to change things in this country. You know, Taharka Bay comes out the woodwork and make videos to discredit those brothers and sisters. Well, I'm back to bag another coon. I told y'all I was coming for this coon. You know, it's okay to love where you come from. If you have Indian, love that. If you have African, love that. But don't discredit Africa because you seeking Indian validation. Dane Callaway, I told y'all I was coming to bag this fool. Didn't I? Hey man, mash up them likes, man. Subscribe to this channel, man. And I want y'all to sit back and relax, get your mind right, and watch me continue to bag this coon. Hey, y'all leave comments below. Share this video. This is how I'm coming tonight. Yeah. The Underground Warrior TV always come banging. You know what I'm saying? Hey, people. When I mean that black people don't want to be African, there's a campaign to dismantle us. So, you know, I always come with the receipts to prove my position that Dane Callaway and all these new movements that we're not African. You know what I'm saying? So these people rather be the people who enslaved them. They don't want to be African. You know, that's why they walk around with all those feathers. But in the book, The Nile Valley Presence in America by Anthony Broder, I want you to get that book and I want you to turn to page 209. The Nile Valley Presence. Check this out. The Nile Valley Presence in Mesoamerica. That's Mexico. The question of an African presence in early American civilization was first raised in 1858 when a gigantic head with African features were discovered in the village of Trans-Zampotas, Mexico. A brief description of the head appeared in a bulletin of Mexico Society of Geography and Statistics in 1869. It was authored by a guy named Jose Megla. I want y'all to look that up. Look up Jose Megla of 1858 and 1869. See, I'm coming with the receipts tonight. We gonna bag these coons and once and for all. You feel me? Check it out, y'all. In 1862. You feel me? This is Jose Megla speaking. In 1862, I was in the region of San Andreas Tuxtla, a town in the state of Veracruz in Mexico. During my exclusion, I learned that a colossal of heads have been unearthed a few years before. A colossal of heads have been unearthed in a few years before. A colossal of heads, y'all. Check this out. Had been unearthed a few years before. On my arrival at Hacienda, I asked the owner of the property where was the heads discovered to take me to them to look at them. When we went, I was struck with surprise, as a work of art is without exaggeration. A magnificent sculpture was astounding to me. And to me, it was the Ethiopic type representative. Ethiopia type representative. Hey, that was in Mexico. He thought he was looking at a statue of a head with African features, physical African features. You see what I'm saying? He said it was a magnificent sculpture with Ethiopic type representative. I reflect, as Megla go on to say, I reflected that there had undoubtedly been Negroes in this country. What'd he say? This is a white man talking. You feel what I'm saying? These are people who visit the land, physically visit the land. We ain't talking about a Negro sitting behind YouTube and a computer hating on black people and hating himself because he was made the African. You know what I'm saying? because the white man hates Africans. Everybody hates Africans. Now these new Negroes with this new movement, we ain't African, we Indians, are running from Africa because everybody else hate Africa. You know, some Negroes called Moors don't like to use the word black, or because in the dictionary, the white man's English interpretation of the Bible rule these niggas. Just because the white man downs the word black. These niggas run with that to ask yourself, who's still a slave in 2022? Dane Callaway and the new Indian movement. You feel what I'm saying? I reflected that had undoubtedly been a Negro in this country, and that this had been the first approach of the world. Contemporary scholars reacted to Megla's discovery with great skepticism. You know, white people don't believe, so they gotta come and look for themselves. You feel what I'm saying? A series of investigations were not undertaken until many years later. A white Neanderthal named Matthew Sterling, a researcher with financial backing from the Smithsonian Institution, the National Geographic Society led an archaeological team to Trans-Zampotis in 1939 and excavated the giant head that Megla described 77 years earlier. The heads was carved from a single block of basalt. Its measurements were, check this out. Its measurements were astounding. It was described as being 8 feet high, 18 feet in circumference, and it weighed more than 10 tons. Sterling description of the head's echoed sentiments of Megla. He stated, this is Matthew Sterling talking. You feel what I'm saying? It presented an awe-inspiring spectacular. Despite its great size, the workmanship is delicate, sure, its proportion perfect, unique in character among Aboriginal American sculpture. It is remarkable before its realistic treatment. The features are bold and amazing with Negroid in character. Blacks, Africans were already in this country before this mongoloid, this Asian Indian came to America. This is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that black people, African people do not have any Indian blood running through their veins. But who's the dominant gene on the planet? The African. Who was here first? The Africans. You're right. But don't try to discredit Africa when you say black people was here in this country earlier. Don't discredit Africa. You feel what I'm saying? You can't. The Olmec people were African. You feel me? We the first people on the planet, so it's self-explanatory that we was already here, but some of us bought by slave trade. Some of us was bought by slave trade. Facts. Everybody didn't come by the slave trade. I didn't say that either. But some of us did. You know? The features are bold amazingly with Negroid character, in character. After achieving tremendous success in Trans-Zampotis, Sterling later set out for La Venta in Mexico, a state of Tabasco, where scholars had early reported finding gigantic heads. La Venta turned out to be gold mine. It turned out to be a gold mine. Sterling found 4 additional all-African in appearance, similar detail to the heads found in Trans-Zampotis. And additionally, facial similarities. All heads wore helmets. Some wore earplugs. Others had cornrows. You feel me? Indians never wore cornrows in their head till they visit a more African people. We start race mixing with them in ancient times. So that's how your mongoloid, light-skinned, red, pale face become dark in appearance. You feel what I'm saying? Detail to the heads found in Zepotes. In addition, facial similarity, all heads wore helmets, some wore earplugs, and others wore cornrows. Historians have identified these statues belonging to the Olmec civilization. The word Olmec is derived from the word Aztec. This is what the Aztec, the root island, which means rubber. What color is rubber? What country produced rubber? What African nations produce rubber? The Olmec is derived from the Aztec root island, which means rubber. Thus, Olmecs may be translated as rubber people, or the people from the land where rubber is produced. You feel me? Years of research excavation have proven La Venta was the center of Olmec civilization. It was the home of the Olmec priests, kings, the most sacred site. The four heads found in La Venta had originally been incorporated into the ceremonial platform, in which orientated on the north-south axis. On the south axis, as was the pyramid that was also discovered in the same area, the first pyramid to have been found in ancient America. La Venta also yield evidence that allowed the dating of the Olmec statues. At the location where the heads were found, 9 samples of wood, charcoal were taken from the remains of the ceremonial court. 5 of these samples were believed to have been incorporated into the platforms, which once held the heads as they were radioactive carbon dated. They dated these motherfucking heads. The dates attributed to the samples range from 1160 to 580 BC. 580 BC, Africans were here, the mongoloid Asians were in Asian. You feel me? So, I come to bang, on these Negroes. That's what I'm banging on tonight, man. Talking about, we don't have an African parent. We not African. You know what I'm saying? All because we mix freely in ancient times with this mongoloid. And the mongoloid, the mongoloid start enslaving the Africans later on down the line in a later date. So that's why I told black people, you either have Indian blood by choice or by force. Because some of the Africans, which were called freedmen in the 1800s, I do believe they was called freedmen, the Africans who band with the Indians and helped fight the government of America. You feel what I'm saying? And they freely mixed with each other. The Seminole is the main example. Go look at the Seminoles. That's called the runaway Africans. It translates runaway Africans. So, man, there was a number of skulls of the skeletons found in graves of various Olmec sites. You know what I mean? 1160 to 580 BC, more than 3,000 years ago. You hear that? More than 3,000 years ago. To date, a total of 16 heads have been identified. 2 in Zepotes, 4 in La Venta, and 6 in San Lorenzo. In the state of Veracruz, 4 others have been found at other sites. The heads vary in weight from 10 to 40 tons. The largest is 9 feet 4 inches high. There were a number of skulls and skeletons found in graves at very Olmec sites. Check this out. A careful study of them lent a great presence within the Olmec population. September 1974, at the 42nd Congress of Americas in Mexico, Dr. Uganza Wyinski, one of the world's leading skull experts, announced that African skulls have been found at Olmec sites. Let's go back and say that. Dr. Unze, I think his name is Dr. Unze Wyinski, one of the world's leading skull experts, announced that African skulls have been found at Olmec sites in Cerrillo de los Mesa, Monte Alban, Tactilico. I'm not that good with the Spanish. Wyinski evidence noted that at the pre-classic ceremony at Tactilico, 13.5% of skeletons examined were found to be African. This guy, Wyinski, is a skull expert. He said 3,000 years ago, the African was already in Mesoamerica before the Indian. This right here blows Dane Callaway out the water. I don't want to hear nobody say they got Indian blood, that they all Indian, they don't have any African in them. Get out of here. You feel what I'm saying? Fake, man. These people fake, don't want to be black. Everybody's scared to be black. You know what I mean? %13% of the skeletons examined were found to be African, as compared to 4% African dated from. I got off track, y'all. Let's get this back. 13.5% of skeletons examined were found to be African, as compared to the 4.5% African skeletons found in the cemetery at Cerrillo de los Mesa, which dated from the later Classic period. Graves from pre-Classic period showed Native American female skeletons buried alongside African males. There's two people here, y'all. There's two people here. You feel what I'm saying? This skeleton evidence indicated that Africans element intermixed with indigenous population at earlier date, the pre-Classic period, and had been significantly absorbed into the native group by Classic period. This skeleton information suggests that African element appeared during the early years of Olmec civilization and was genetically absorbed into the general population over the years. The skeleton evidence suggested there were probably years. Hold on, y'all. What is this? I had to copy this, y'all. So some of my own writing, man, I write so fast, man, and sometimes I had this stuff off, man. I'm sorry about that, y'all. But the skeleton information is that the African elements appeared during the early years of Olmec civilization and was genetically absorbed into the general population over the years. The skeleton evidence suggests there probably were not more than 500 Africans in the Olmec world. A significant number of their skeletons were found buried in royal graves. The stone head skeletons remain proved that there was an African presence in ancient America. The questions begging an answer is, from the part of African did these people come? Upon examining all evidence, the obvious answer is the Nile Valley. There's a Nile Valley connection between Mesoamerica, you feel what I'm saying, in the Africans in South America, in the Caribbean, in Mexico. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no doubt. One of the first clues linking Olmec heads to the Nile Valley was the helmets, which is identical in every detail those worn by Nubian soldiers in Africa between 948 and 680 BC, before the Common Era. And Ivan Van Sertima noted the author of They Came before Columbus. You feel what I'm saying? The African presence in America describes similarity between the Olmec and Nubian helmets. If we examine some of these helmets, we will find that they are uncannily similar to the leather helmets worn by Egyptian Nubian military in the era of Ramesses Egyptian kings. In the first millennium BC, they completely covered the heads and the back and the neck. They completely covered the back, heads, and neck. They have tied one attached to the crest and fallen in front of the ears. The detail on some of these, although almost 3,000 years ago, had become little observed. But there is one particular now in Jalapa Museum in which can be examined for comparative purpose. It has the circular earplug, incised, decorative parallel lines found on the colossal Nubian heads in the Egyptian seaport of Tanis. Nubian people that Van Sertima played a major role at the beginning and the end of the civilization in Kemet. Some people call it Egypt. And history was proven to them to be custodians of the Nile Valley tradition. Nubian kingdoms to Seti gave rise to the culture in the north around 34 BCE, before the Common Era. Nubian rulers of the 25th dynasty, 750 to 750 BC, brought political stability to Kemet during the last centuries of the native rule. The Nubians were responsible for initiating numerous buildings and projects such as temples, construction, pyramids building, mummification during the same time frame that the Africans began appearing in America, 1160-580 BC. Africans have been selling ships up and down the Nile throughout the Mediterranean Sea for countless of years. The pharaoh Necho II, 600 BC, directed a fleet of ships that circumnavigated the continent of Africa. 1970, Thor, 1970, y'all. In 1970, Thor, I don't know this guy's name, but we're going to say Thor Hydro sailed an Egyptian designed papyrus weed boat named Ra II from North Africa to the West Indies. This was an experiment. They wanted to know, did the African really travel? This dude in 1970, Thor Hydro sailed an Egyptian designed papyrus weed boat named Ra II from North Africa to West India in a successful attempt to prove that the ancient Egyptians had the capacity to sail similar boats to America. So all that shit that these new Negroes, this Indian movement that were not African, the Grand Canyon has a pyramid that can find some of the Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon. This is why. Because, fool, did you hear what I said? Africans have been selling up and down the Nile throughout the Mediterranean Sea for countless years. You feel what I'm saying? And circumnavigated the planet. You feel what I'm saying? By boats. In a successful attempt to prove that the ancient Egyptians had the capacity to sail similar boats to America. Ivan Van Sertim, and others has shown the existence of numerous currents, trade winds off the coast of Africa, which circulated from the Americas. So you mean to tell me this wind out of America couldn't bring African slaves during the slave trade of the early 1800s, 1700s, early 1600s, 1400s? We came to America in 1555, some of our people. You know, these new Negroes and the African slave trade didn't happen out of Africa. We got countless of evidence. You know, we got Great Britain who made money. The whole empire was built off taking black people out of Africa in different parts of the world where they made money from the slave trade. Proof documents. But you got these George Soros niggas. You know, I call them George Soros because somebody's giving these niggas money that say we're not African to introduce hatred towards African people and African achievement. This has been going on since the pre-1492 explosion at the caves of motherfucking Europe by the motherfucking Neanderthal. They rewrote history to discredit us. But some black people, some white people had the bold enough heart to even come out with this type of information to prove that the Africans were already here. And the slave trade did happen. So we want our reparations. Don't even try it, Dane Callaway. We bagging coons tonight. We bagging coons tonight, man. Ivan Van Sertim and others have shown existence of numerous currents, trade winds off the coast of Africa, which circulated to and from Americas. The reality exists that Africans had the capacity to travel the New World, regardless of whether they intentionally set out to travel there. Currently, there are numerous examples supporting the Nile Valley presence in Mesoamerica, although we do not know exactly when they arrived under the conditions. The similarities between Olmec civilizations and the Nubian Kemetic cultures are too plentiful to be viewed as circumstantial. Their existence among both groups identical traits that were shared between between members of royal and priestly class. The examples are the follows. All kings in Kemet wore a double crown, which signifies that the pharaohs ruled over and upper and lower Egypt. There is an image of the Olmec dignitary as Zero de Pledra, who is shown wearing a double crown. He is offering an object which has Egyptian symbols on it to a person with distinct African appearance. All kings in Kemet, they talking about Egypt, y'all, were portrayed with the artificial beard was attached to their face. Most Olmec sculptures are beardless, but on a few sculptures where beards were portrayed, they appeared to be attached to the face. These men who wore false beards were portrayed in very distinguished authoritative pose, and the beard, I'm sorry, y'all, and the beard appeared to be indication of high rank. So fam, you know, we can go on and on and on, you know, with this particular information, you know, to prove that, you know, that we are who we are. You know, we ain't gotta keep pushing this narrative that the African was here first. We the original people. What did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say? He said the black people, we are the original people of the earth. So it's self-explanatory that we was all over the planet before white people, Indian people, you know, got to where we was at. You feel what I'm saying? You know, could you imagine, close your eyes and the whole planet black? That's how it used to look. So no matter what Dane Callaway say, all these self-hatred black people don't want to be African. We have enough proof. But I want you to go out to get the book. This book called Nile Valley Contribution to Civilization, the Nile Valley Presence in America. I want you to get the Nile Valley Contribution to Civilization from our brother, our great brother, Anthony Broader. Some of y'all call him Tony Broader. What page is that I said that was on? Y'all remember? What page did I say to start from on that Anthony Broader? See, I copied this from my book. I think it was page. What page was that? I got the paperwork. Because I want y'all to go to the page. I don't want y'all to be, miseducated. I want you to get this book. Go to page 209 in the book. The Nile Valley Contribution to Civilization. You feel what I'm saying about Anthony Broader? That's a nice read. You feel me?